Good morning, welcome to a morning review. This is Kim speaking on Tuesday, the 14th of February. So, looking at the euro dollar first, and yesterday we managed to get a nice short back down. Well, eventually ended up catching a daily 50. Now, it's taken a bit of a bounce off that so far through the Asian session. Whether it'll hold is another matter. It looks like it's the weight of that those price on there. It's turning it over, and it looks like it may even roll. Now we are seeing this sort of a bit of a morning surge at the moment, or I have seen a bit of a morning surge, and it's just run back into that hourly 50, which is seeming a lot stronger. So, as I'm watching for this morning's move, it's really breaking above that 50. Well, we could be seeing back into the R1, and eventually over the next day or so you could see the weekly pivot here. But for now, it's really erring much more on the bearish side of things. There is a trend line that can be drawn. Okay, it's a live candle, but I'm going to pop it across the bottom there, and if it breaks that, it's to me a much more bearish affair. Still, it continues in the lower highs, lower lows really, and we could be seeing yesterday's lows and then maybe the S1 and maybe more. It's a relatively tightish range. There is news out later on. We've got UK news, which I'll come on to the pound first, but UK news at 9:30. We've got US news at 1:30, the PPI, which could cause a bit of volatility, and we've got Fed Chair Janet Yellen speaking at 3 p.m. So there is news today, so you may see a bit more volatility through the markets. Fed Janet Yellen, she's really just testifying. So it's most likely going to be much of the same as what we've heard, but you never know, and we could see some volatility around 3 o'clock. But it's the PPI figure we got from the US at 1:30, and the CPI figure, the Consumer Price Index, at 9:30. So both inflation figures this morning, today rather, could be quite important. So moving back, looking at the pound. Almost at the UK pound then, but it is. Okay, bit of a pivot swing yesterday, so it ended up stronger, pushing up a little bit more yet. Bit of a divergence between the pound and the euro at the moment, as one's pushing up, the other one's pushing down. There's a bit of strength coming in here. However, we've got an untouched daily pivot below. There is the potential for us to see that reached. It's not quite got up to the R1 yet, broken yesterday's highs already, but again here, if we start seeing the market sell, well, we could be on for at least the daily pivot, maybe a bit more, as it pulls back towards that 34. Looking at the higher time frames, nothing obvious there really. Inflation may be will be, I'm sure, the leader today in terms of what we see. I'm just coming right down to this 5-minute chart. You can see it's pushing up at the moment again, so we could be into R1 territory even before 8 o'clock. Okay, dollar yen. So dollar yen was heading back up towards its monthly pivot. Never quite made it. It doesn't look like it's put in a day's candle there. 14th. Oops. Yeah, it's in there, sorry. Never quite made it up to that monthly pivot. It's teasing, or been teasing. Lots of chop for a long period yesterday. Still got the weekly pivot below, so as I said yesterday, a bit of a rock and a hard place here. We've got pivots to the top of us, pivots to the bottom, and it's which way is it going to go? Yesterday's consolidation not convincing in terms of showing us any direction, and it may be it's just easing back here, and we'll continue to just roll down to put lower high in the shorter time frame. Untouched daily pivots, only rallies. Well, that would be an initial target. Maybe looking at that monthly pivot at some point soon. If it can get past this sort of entanglement of moving averages. Otherwise, we're looking back towards that weekly pivot. Not, as I say, to me, it's not totally clear. We have, again, got trend lines running across here, which is a bit of a messy one in terms of the price has pulled well away from it and sort of come back to it, and then, well, given us the trend line and then tested that area. But it does look, well, if we see a break of that, it does look like we could see further downside there. Aussie dollar, when it eventually comes, well, Aussie dollar, consolidation, it's, as I said a few times now, it's certainly the strongest of the majors against the US dollar at the moment, and it's pushed up through the Asian session just to prove me right there. Again, it's banging on the door of these prior highs here. I'll be looking at this a little bit later on in terms of the weekly review or outlook, but it does look like it may be running for that monthly R1 at this rate. I was looking at the prior highs there. Well, it's got a way to go yet, but if it starts pushing through this morning, there's the sort of areas where it could be running to. Done pretty much everything today already. Touched the daily pivot, R1. Not of much interest to me. It could just consolidate, as we saw yesterday. It consolidated for many hours until, well, right the way through the morning, and then eventually moved. But we'll see how it runs. Canadian dollar, let's look at that. And, well, it's starting to break this lower trend line that I drew on the dailies yesterday. Again, heading south. Benefiting from oil price to quite a degree. Let's just have a look and see how oil's been shifting up briefly. Consolidating there, so, well, a little bit more than oil then. It does look like it could continue in this downward motion towards those prior lows. Those prior lows, obviously, there was quite a lot of support around and buying coming into that sort of zone of around about 130.20 downwards. Be interesting to see what happens if it gets down to that route now. There's little for it to go in terms of daily targets from where it sits. Maybe the S1, maybe an early one, but it's almost there. Beyond that, well, as I said, we're pushing towards the daily S2. Any reversals? Well, we have got untouched daily pivot above there, which would be a reasonable target for the upside, but plenty of resistance before it gets there. Not much else there. As I said, news-wise, we've already, just to clarify, this morning, 9:30, you've got the UK CPI inflation, consumer price inflation. Beyond that, there's little data coming out until 1:30. Anything key, the flash GDP from Europe is quite a non-mover. For anyone that's studying on that. And then you've got Yellen speaking at 3 p.m. Okay, that's it for me. Have a great one. Bye for now.